A couple of days ago, I posted a video about the birth rate. And I used a clip from the president of Students for Life railing against the anti-child culture and how everybody wants dogs and strollers and they just want to look cute on Instagram and not have kids. You know, that nonsense. If you're watching this on TikTok, I'll tag it below. If you're watching it on YT, it'll be in the videos a couple days in time before this one. So yesterday I started watching this documentary called The Birth Gap, done by this data scientist. And this data scientist has made the rounds all over conservative television, right? I've seen him on Fox News. I think he's Scottish or English. He has some kind of accent, but he's, bald, little, like stubble. You've probably seen him if you've watched any conservative media about the birth rate. He made this documentary a couple years ago, and part one of it is available to view for free on YT if you want to. Now, I paid the $12 paywall for the monthly subscription to that dumb website so I could watch the entire thing. But this discovery I'm about to talk about right now, that was explained in part one. So really, I didn't need to pay the $12, but I wanted to see the whole thing, just for shits and giggles. Now, I've been under the impression that a better policy matter when it comes to dealing with the birth rate, if you assume that that's even a problem, is to encourage people who have kids to have more kids, or who want to have kids to have more than they originally were planning, right? If they have two, encourage them to have three through various policies, et cetera, et cetera. There's no sense in trying to convince people who don't want children to have them. It doesn't work. It's never worked. But that's not going to work, actually, and here's why. Because the percentage of people with, 3 and 4 children hasn't changed. Of the people that are having children, the same percentage that was having 3 and 4 has been static. So those people have been doing that. Those people's numbers haven't fallen in that demographic. What caused the population bust was the increased rate of childlessness. But what also hasn't changed is intentional childlessness. So child-free people like myself, that percentage of the population has always held steady. It's the people that otherwise would have had children that are not having any at all. That's been the change, and that's been responsible for the very precipitous drop in the birth rate. And when this guy interviews people on the street in various countries, he traveled all over the world, the people and couples that don't have children, they're like, well, I haven't found a partner, or, well, I haven't got to a place in my career yet. I don't have enough money, et cetera, et cetera. Same reasons. So far in my explanation, there's only one piece of information that was new to me. The fact that the rate of childlessness is driving the birth rate drop. Whereas I thought it was the shrinking of families. That's not what it was. So that's the piece of new information. But here's another piece of new information. For every country who's gone below replacement in the last 30 years or so, there has been a specific event that you can trace the increased rate of childlessness directly to. For Japan and Italy, for example, it was the oil crisis in 1974. Those two countries were hit really hard by that crisis. And ever since then, since 1975, their birth rate has been dropping steadily. In fact, even a year or two from the oil crisis, it dropped precipitously and has been falling ever since. Now look at this. This is the birth rate in the United States in 2007, right? Replacement rate is 2.1. We were at 2.12, and we'd been holding steady at replacement for a long time, while other countries had fallen. Look, Canada, 1.6, North Korea, 1.9, right? We were holding steady. But what happened in 2007? The Great Recession. Unlike Japan and Italy, the oil crisis didn't hit us nearly as hard, as tough as it was for folks that were alive then, It didn't hit us nearly as hard as it did Japan and Italy and other nations. But the housing crisis did. And what happened? Well, let's look at that birth rate the next year, shall we? Within a year, it had gone from 2.12 to 2.07. The following year, 2.0. The year after that, 1.93. For our drop in birth rate, our singular economic event was the housing crisis, 2007, and it hasn't recovered since, and I don't think it will. Now, you and I know this. People who follow me, you know this, because most people who follow me are leftist or left-leaning people, right? Who are the people that are all up in the big panic about the birth rate, right? It tends to be right-leaning people, right? Religious conservatives, economic conservatives who are worried about not having enough workers, not having enough tax base, etc. Now, who caused the oil crisis in the 1970s? Who caused the housing crisis in 2007? According to Business Insider, it was low interest rates, easy credit, insufficient regulation, and subprime mortgages. What party, or let's say, what economic ideology causes those things I just mentioned? Conservative economic ideology, right? That Milton Friedman nonsense. They caused it. So I've been smiling all morning as I'm sipping my coffee and eating my English muffin because I'm realizing that the people that are kvetching about the population the most, people who are the most upset about the birth rate, are the very people who caused the economic crisis that led to it. So, Republicans, pro-lifers, everybody that supports political parties around the world that are big fans of deregulation, you have no one to blame but yourself. This is going to be a good day. I can feel it.